right, so have you been enjoying the cold weather this season? Well, the Norwegian concept of Friluftsliv, which roughly translates to open-air living, is a popular tradition across Nordic countries, and it encourages you to get outside for as long as possible. The custom allows you to embrace nature, even during those coldest winter months, and has been shown to boost mental and physical well-being. So we know Canadian winters are difficult to get through. How do you keep your mental health in check and cultivate this kind of joy that Friluftsliv seems to cultivate other places? How do you do that this time?
First, you have to say Friluftsliv 10 times.
Oh my God,
I feel like that word is very soothing. It is Friluftsliv. I feel very Swedish just saying it. Friluftsliv. And I'm going to tell you something. On paper, you would say, oh, that sounds nice. The sun, some snow and cold and sleet and hail. Like, no, on paper, it sounds great. And in practice for me, my entire life, I have run from the cold. I am not a good Canadian. I really detest the cold winter months, but I realized during lockdowns over the last few years that probably why I hated the winter so much is because I would just try to put my head down and hibernate and just sort of fight through it. And I realized because we were locked inside that forcing myself to get outside, shockingly, I survived, which is a big deal. I dressed well. And I'll tell you something, there is something magical about sunlight that I discovered during the lockdown in a way I never had before. There's so much science, you're the scientist, but there is so much science about mood lifting with just sunshine. It's free. If you can be outside, if you got a patio in a condo, if you could go for a walk. And I'll tell you something, getting a dog during the pandemic, I lost my last dog and I didn't think I'd get another one fast, but during the pandemic, we got Cleopatra. Guess what? They got to get outside many times a day. And she forced me out, and I'll tell you something, it has changed the game for me. I'm not going to go so far as to say I'm a winter lover now.
Yeah.
Limits. But I will say I force myself out. I get the sunshine on my face, in my retina, safely. And I'll tell you, I don't have that mood swing down that I used to get for so many years.
I just realized that Simon is kind of like my dog because he forces me to get out. He's the one that every day and continuing when I get home from work, he's like, let's go. And we call it to take a turn in the park because we live very close to a park, and a turn around the park, sounds very Victorian, no? It's about 6,000 steps. So it's like a very good chunk of time, but he has to be the instigator because I'm like a dog that needs a treat or like some promise of something at the end of it. And we recently discovered there's a pool hall near the park.
I saw this on your Instagram.
And we've always been so afraid to go into the pool hall. It was a little intimidating. We finally went into the pool hall. It's $13 an hour, cheap beers, and it's so much fun.
I love this.
So we take it out to the park.
Love
play a little pool.
I got a dog too, so taking him out. But I think sometimes, especially when it gets dark early, you want to stay inside, you want to hibernate, right? And so then thinking about that, I mean, like, okay, we know that the sun regulates our circadian rhythm, our sleep-wake cycle, so it's so important to get out. But if we can make an effort during the day, at least the sun is out, we get the added benefit. And sometimes we have to force ourselves, but much better to go out in the daylight than at night when it's dark at like 4 p.m.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You just have to have the right gear.
That's it.
Have the right gear. It is so true because I hated winter. I was with you, and then I actually bought a good snowsuit. I invested in a good one, and I was like, oh my gosh. And now I get mad at people. If I'm out for a walk with people and they're like complaining about the cold, I'm like, you didn't buy the right gear. You did not buy the
It matters. It matters. The Swedish say there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad clothing.
Clothes. My skin used to always say that. There's no bad weather, just bad dressing.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't know that. I didn't buy that before. It's true.
Yeah. I love it.
I was just out recently on the weekend for a 3-hour walk. It was so cold, but by the end of it, you feel rejuvenated.
Euphoric almost.
It's great. And it made me realize, you talking about how you worship the sun, you love the sun, and there are people I know who have moved, for example, to LA. Everybody talks about LA being the ideal weather. But there are some people who have moved who have said that it's actually contributed to even more anxiety or bummerness. And the reason why is because there's only one season there. I like having a 4-season life. And there's something to that. And one of those seasons, yes, it's very cold, but I don't know, there's something really refreshing about being outside.
I like that. That's so true.
Who have we become? Who are we? Listen, Jillian, always a pleasure to have you on the show, and great in this capacity also.
Yeah.
So thanks for being here. Happy New Year.
Hey there, wasn't that great? Do you know where you can find some equally good content? Our YouTube page. It's filled with discussions, debates, and some laughs. Head there now, like and subscribe.